Hello and welcome to week 2 of Teams and Virtual Teams. Y'all, great work on our initial discussion posts from week 1. Those were very reflective in nature. They were a good chance for us to get to know one another. I enjoyed reading through the discussion posts and looking at those. I will be working to get grades out by Wednesday of this week. That will always be my goal. And so kind of have that on your radar, that my hope is to get a grade out for last week's work before you have to turn in anything for this week's work. That way you know beforehand how things are going for you in the class. If there's a week where you need to really step up your work to improve your grade, I don't want you to miss an opportunity to do that because you just didn't know where you were at. So that's my goal. Wednesday of the week, I'll try to have last week's grades in. So that's the expectation for myself. If something disastrous happens or something exciting happens, like my wife and I are soon going to be having a baby. If that happens and it gets delayed a little bit, I ask you to give me a little bit of grace on that. But barring anything there, then we should have those in. So again, I enjoyed getting to know them. I hope that you enjoyed getting to know your classmates a little bit better. And then kind of getting our feet wet with our discussion on groups and group fundamentals and group realities. We're going to continue talking about groups this week. We're going to be continuing to talk about some of the terminology, some of the formal study there of group theory. We're going to be talking about the pros and cons of groups. There's great pros in doing group work. We've talked about some of those, how it can be more productive and more create better results for an organization to have folks working in groups. But there can also be some large consequences if groups don't function the way that they are intended to. So one of the things we're going to talk about a lot this week is groupthink. There's going to be 2 kind of discussion posts about that very topic for this week. Now, groupthink is something that we've seen throughout our history with really disastrous consequences. So Pearl Harbor is an example of groupthink. Bay of Pigs, the Challenger explosion. These moments in our nation's history that we look back on just with remorse and sadness and regret. And so much of what has caused some of those disasters is this reality called groupthink. So we're going to look at kind of some of the formal aspects of it and then have an opportunity to reflect on ways that we've seen it at work, either in our lives, in our work settings, or in other places throughout history. An example I'll give real quick that I've seen, this was last fall, I listened to a podcast. Now hear me, I am not saying you should listen to this podcast or anything there. It's just a podcast I listened to called The Rise and Fall of Mars Hill. Now within The Rise and Fall of Mars Hill, they kind of detail the story of that church's beginnings and how it came to be, and then what happened that resulted in its kind of dissipation as a multi-site church in the Northwest. And within that, I was struck by how many similarities I saw to the things that we'll talk about in terms of groupthink and the things that were being outlined as blind spots in the various church members and leadership in the rise and fall of Mars Hill. So there's kind of a modern day example of how these things don't just affect huge decision makers, right? The people that are making policies for the whole nation, but it can also happen on an individual level at a church or in a work setting where we don't make the best decisions, or we ignore red flags, or we believe that we've got some invincibility as a group because of some blind spots. So that's what we will be looking at this week. Again, there will be 2 discussion posts. There's video for you to watch on the Challenger explosion. There's some lectures to review, an article to read. So there's plenty to do this week. Continue to work hard. If you have any questions throughout the week, if anything's unclear, please reach out to me. Again, I've said it before, mlewis@uu.edu, or email me through Canvas. It'll come to me, and we'll get anything that we need to sorted out. So hope y'all are having a great start to your week, and that you enjoy the material that we go through as we finish up our discussion on groups and group theory throughout the week before getting into teams. Bye, y'all.